Public input on non-agenda items. Mr. Butler. That'd be great. Thank you.
It's my first time to attend the meeting.
Thank you very much. My name is Chuck Bodenhafer. I'm a resident of the island. I've been very, very pleased with the services provided by the fire department and all the people. I really do not want or hope you consider any merger with another department. I don't think we need it. We're done very, very well on our own. I don't think we need to combine resources because we're here and wherever they are is there. And it's going to be very difficult for anybody to get there quicker than what we can do ourselves. So for what it's worth, my opinion as a resident of this community is that I wish you do not merger with any other department. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Pam Flaherty. I'm a resident on Fort Myers Beach. We've been here over 10 years. We were here for Ian. We evacuated. We had 2 fires in our garage, and I was very, very, very grateful for the rapid response that we received each time. I think they even gave my husband a fire extinguisher. I would greatly prefer that we retain our current situation and that any decisions to change or transition to some other scenario would be based on valid data. I consider using census data to be totally inappropriate for this island. We are not like the mainland. We have a very, very different dynamic in terms of how many people are on this island, particularly during season. We have perhaps 6,000 residents who are more than 6 months a year. We have probably 60,000 during season. To base our fire coverage and our EMS coverage on 5,000 or 6,000 people is completely inappropriate. And we have to bear in mind that we have just one road going up and down this island with one lane going each way. That is very different from a normal neighborhood in a place such as Bonita. So please bear in mind that residents really, really need to have your continued support. And I am very much against this merger. That's, I think, all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public input at this time?
Hello, Ron Bennock. I'm an island. I live on 210 Sterling Avenue. And I'm here trying to figure this out, how you just kind of willy-nilly throw this out without talking to the chiefs. I'm totally in support of Fort Myers Beach Fire. And that's why I'm here to see what happens here today. But I'm amazed at how this has come about without talking to the experts. So in support of FMB Fire Department.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else at this time? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Consent agenda, item number 6. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unfinished business. Update on potential land swap. Chief?
Thank you, Commissioner. On Monday, so we've been working, as you know, we've been working with the town and trying to see if we could affect the land swap, see if it would both agencies. And that process has been going on since about March. It's been through a lot of phases, from appraisals to rezoning to placing drawing a footprint of a building on both sites. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I determined that the best option would be for us to stay on our property, and reached out on Monday and let Mayor Allers know that. At their town meeting on Monday, they discussed that at the end of the meeting and announced that we would mutually be withdrawing from the prospect of trading lands. So I can run through in more detail, but at the end of the day, the main driver is placing the fire station on Top's property. Will allow me to raise it a little bit higher and make it more conducive to the operations of the fire department.
Discussion?
I have a question, Chief. We've done considerable amount of planning already for that particular site.
Yes.
Will we be able to take the information we've already put together and the planning that we've already done and apply it towards as we move forward?
We will. As you know, the original building was going to be a combined administrative and fire station, but a lot of the planning that's been done for civil, such as utilities and the zoning changes and stuff that we'll have to do, a lot of that will carry over to the fire station. So.
I still have, and I've shared this with Chief, some questions regarding the feasibility of each option, and I'm not quite 100% there yet with going back to the original option. I'd still like to have some more conversation with Chief and/or with the board to understand why the other option would not work. But that can be, I just kind of wanted on the record that I'm not quite there yet to go back to our original plan. I'd like to explore further if there is still an opportunity, because as a resident, it makes sense to have Town Hall next to Bay Oaks.
Right.
And I know that that was certainly something we had been discussing for quite a while. So I'd like a little further
I can share if you'd like. I can give a visual of what it looked like.
to the board's pleasure. I think that's a very important aspect.
So I'll give it up on the screen. I'll just give a little rundown of the
Yeah.
history, if you will. So in the process, we've talked through the previous board meetings. We were looking at, when we started talking about a trade, we were talking about moving somewhere further north when it was just going to be a fire station. And we know our data says Del Mar's the right place. As we worked through the process of our review of the old station with FEMA, we became intimately aware of the new Limo line, the moderate wave action line.
Can you point that out to us?
Sure. So on the screen here, what you're looking at from the right side is you're looking at basically starting at Bay Oaks and working up towards Carolina, is that black flag line. So if you look where it says zone AE 12, AE is a zone that we could build a fire station in. The problem is that that black flag line is the Limo line, moderate wave action line. And everything seaward of that makes it unusable for a fire station. And it's a class 4 critical infrastructure facility is the way it's classified in the rules. What that means is that I can't do an enclosed garage below base flood elevation. In this case, for a fire station, would be 15 feet in the air above sea level. So we're forced to be behind that line. So as I was looking at those properties, you can see, if you can see, the black line moves inward off of the Stero Boulevard, 2 or 3 parcels in the areas that we were looking at. So it kind of took all of those areas north on the boulevard off the map for us for fire station purposes. The next thing we were doing is talking with Chapel by the Sea and seeing if we could buy their lots, because even though the line cuts in a bit, my building could sit behind that line, but they're not in a position to sell. They have to get national approval. So then it moved me back to Tops Town Hall. And that's, so at that point, that's when I started working on putting a footprint on paper. How high am I going to be able to elevate my garage bays and still get the driveways I need? So if I jump to the next slide, this is a little illustration of both parcels. And so what you see on the Town Hall property is it is 2.2 acres, but part of that is the residential piece behind the church, and that's that long driveway. So that long driveway brings us in and it gets into the back of the station. And now it's trying to get out the front of the station and onto Tropical Shores. Let's see if my pointer will go there. So the intent was to get a few parking spaces up front for the public. And then this area and over here would be some parking for employees. It's putting a lot on this site. The other factors in here are that right now this is mangroves, and the 2.2 acres includes, it goes all the way to the far seawall of the canal. So we would have to put in seawall. We'd probably have to work with the Corps of Engineers back, if we could put seawall in and then backfill it and then put our driveways down. What it leaves on the frontage is about 0.8 acres if I really squeeze all my elements on the back end. Over here, this is the same 4,200 square foot footprint. And you can see there's an abundance of area left. This represents 1 acre, not 0.8, but 1 full acre, where this line is. So, from elevation standpoint, this is kind of a little better idea of what it looks like. That represents 4 feet above the road. And I hope that better illustrates what we were trying to work with in getting a driveway out here. This would all be behind stem wall in order to elevate that parking and get it up and make the driveways in the back work. So I was really trying to force a lot on that back piece of the town hall property. And then the other thing is, if you remember, I can't move this, but back here on the original design, we had a road that went from Tropical Shores to Gulf Beach. I fully intend that road will stay because with the old town council and town manager, we were talking about needing access from Town Hall to Bay Oaks. So I fully intend that roadway will stay open. It won't be fenced. So that access from one parcel to the next will remain so that the town will continue to have that access if they build on their town hall property.
So the town, I'm sorry.
The road, is that a public road or is that our road?
It's our property.
Okay.
It's our property. But the alley it's still there behind the slab from the grocery store.
That was the behind Tops.
Yes, behind Tops. My intent is to keep that road intact, and that would allow, if our folks come back on Tropical Shores, they would be able to drive around into the back of the fire station from there.
And that would allow for town staff to be able to go
Yes.
back and forth, unimpeded back and forth.
Yes.
Is the town property is larger than,
It is,
Fire
our
department,
property is
correct?
2.14, I think, and they're 2.21.
okay, out of their 2.21, how much of that is the mangrove or that back section that's just road that's not really a buildable, do you know?
This back
Yeah,
part
'cause
here,
that looks, you can't really build on that.
no,
other
it's
than a
50,
road.
it's 50 feet wide.
Okay,
It's-
plus the mangroves.
Yes, on the end of the water. So there would be some work that can be done, but it would have to go through the Corps to get approval to take them out and put a seawall in.
And then what about the height of the elevation that would be needed on each property that would make it usable for the fire department, but able for our ladder trucks and whatnot to get in and out? You have pitch, right, going up on driveways and things like that.
Right, so both of these are sited with the intention of coming up 4 feet above the road. Both of these are elevated, so when I go to this drawing, both buildings are sitting, it doesn't look like it, but that's 4 feet.
So that's similar.
It's similar.
Okay.
Yes, no, the buildings are the same height in this consideration. And you can see the driveways in and out, and it's a little harder to tell, but the driveway in the front of this would get it would feel fairly steep as a truck coming out and making the turn. We can always extend further out, but then that's less land that if we don't use that frontage and we decide to sell it off, that money that's sold off would ultimately probably go to the admin building on San Carlos.
Chief, have you had an appraisal done on what land will be extra? Do we have any idea what we would?
I've not had an appraisal. You mean like so the 1 acre on the front?
Yes.
I haven't had an appraisal done. We have appraisals on both Tops and Town Hall that were done back in August, and they're fairly similar. Town Hall's actually a few dollars more, I think, by about $100,000. And that was strictly done. So the appraisals that I had done, let me go back to March when we had our original appraisal. Our original appraisal on our land was 16.8 million. When we started getting deeper into the swap conversation, we ordered appraisals on both properties, and the town was working on appraisals on both properties as well. The updated appraisal on our property went from 16.8 down to 12.67. So the market's all over the place. The appraiser explained it as not a lot of sales and more stuff coming on the market. So we were 12.67. I believe the town was right at 12.8 by our appraiser's numbers. So, but
And
I did give her the criteria to look at both properties, completely zoned as highest best use. So that was the entirety of the property being zoned as commercial boulevard. And she assessed both of them with those parameters.
And is this a done deal at this point, or is there an opportunity for some additional discussion with the town regarding this?
I think there's always opportunity for discussion. The big thing we have to look at is our own economics if we're trying to make sure to recapture what we can for our admin building. How much of that frontage is left on both of these parcels, I think needs to be a key factor that plays into a decision.
Fair enough.
Ultimately, you guys have the final say.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So this is strictly a fire station proposal on the back portion of.
Yes, sir.
It looks to me like it would be logistically easier for equipment to get in and out of the tops side of the, yes, there. A little easier for equipment to get in and out of the tops option, as well as less work required regarding seawalls and dealing with the mangroves that are there, would be right up against the building. So is there a dollar difference, in your opinion, to build on the tops property versus the town property expense-wise?
There's obviously going to be a dollar difference. You see a long driveway across the back, so there's going to be much more, there's going to be a larger amount of pavement involved. But then again, that's offset because if you look at Town Hall is stripped and ready to build. We're going to have demolition costs and taking out the foundations and everything on the top property. How does that balance out? I don't have those numbers.
We don't really have that figured out.
But you can see how much driveway it would take to get across the back of the church property and into the back of the fire station.
Right.
And you're going to, this area for employee parking, find my mouse. In my mind, with that having to be elevated to match this ramp up into this area, because by this point, you're at 4 feet high back here behind these doors, and you have to get up to that 4-foot level. So you have to be elevated on this parking lot, which means you're talking about retaining wall around this and fill. And there's a lot more trying to squeeze it all into that piece.
Right.
Just for public knowledge, can you tell us when these talks kind of started and how, maybe why they got started initially? And with, I think this was pre you as well, the previous fire chief. Am I right on that, or can you?
Oh, yeah. This was before I was in this seat.
Yes.
Sure. So the conversation started after the storm when, looked like both properties were going to be vacant to some degree. And there were conversations about, it would be nice to put Town Hall here and touch Bay Oaks and have everything contiguous. And then that picked up steam when I took over. I first met with the mayor and Chris Ollie when Chris was the interim. And we started talking about it at that time. My concern at that point was we don't know what market value is. How do I let go of one piece of land, take another piece when we don't have a market value on either one? I bought it for $4 and $19. It's appraised at $16.8. As we found out 4 months later, it's $12.6. So we really don't know what market value is until one of them sells. So we started working through a formula of, we would make the trade and we would get appraisals. If one was 10% different than the other, then that 10% would be the number used when one property sold, whatever the difference is, that's how we would figure out the value of the other one, and we would work it out. Really trying to make sure, in my mind, how do you protect the interest of the taxpayer? So if we sell off a piece of property, let me go back. If we sell off a piece of property, how does the government agency do that in a way that you're capturing highest and best? Sealed bids. So, working with our attorney, they're recommending that process of using a sealed bid when we liquidate the frontage or the old fire station, so that we can get the highest and best, and we're not negotiating with just one party. So we kind of worked through those factors, and then we came to the point of, well, let's get the appraisals on both property and see what we're working with. Are they even different in price? And our attorney recommended that the towns should probably have their own appraisals as well to protect their interests. So that was kind of the next phase that we went through. And then that was taking a little while, and the mayor came to me and made a good point. He goes, our property, your appraisals show my property is worth more. If you're comfortable, I'm comfortable. So why don't we go ahead and move on? And it was a good point. And so that's when we started down the path of getting it all zoned, town hall all zoned to highest and best. In that process, the back piece that the town owns is zoned residential. So the property was going to be rezoned, so it was all commercial boulevard before we got to the point where we were going to agree to a trade. In the meantime, I was talking with Chapel by the Sea and keeping in contact with them, because thinking at that point, we were still thinking we'd be able to go up to Del Mar or somewhere further north. So for us to trade with the town, we were either going to sell off Tops or we were going to sell off Town Hall. And then at that point, we're thinking further north. I'm talking with the church, and if they're going to sell and we'll sell, somebody would be able to get the whole block. They'd have waterfront, they'd have the full block on the boulevard. But then as the church kept progressing along, they have a lot of details of what they have to do moving forward. So the timelines weren't working out. That put me back to the properties. And then I started citing the buildings. And to me, the buildings was kind of the final piece to help make that decision.
Just looking at your drawings, it appears that there would be much more of a concrete asphalt pour on the town side versus our property, which of course increases cost.
It does.
And it increases maintenance down the road. Not having a full acre, if we decide as a district, that's what we're going to do, is to liquidate the excess property.
Mhm.
I think a full acre is much more marketable. And the seawall issue really has me concerned, primarily because I know the timelines in dealing with DEP is long. I mean, anything you do with them is a long process. It's a solid process, but it takes a lot of time. And I know we're in a timeliness issue to get this started, and we have commitments with the state as well to get moving forward with our project.
Can you show me where the seawall would go on the town's property?
Sure. It basically would, let me see. No, that's a better one. So basically it would follow along the driveway. And I'm not sure exactly without having a surveyor platted out how far in, but if you can, just imagine it following the driveway and then
By the main
probably
roads, or-
probably all the way around, because on the other side it's seawall. On the other side of the canal
Use
there
your
is.
pointer. Use your
I'm sorry.
Who's your plan?
So with this all being ours, my thought process, I don't know how much of this would be able to be filled, if I would have to come all the way around and tie in, or if I would have some ability to come across and tie it in. I don't know. A surveyor would have to tell us that.
Is there a seawall necessary on the Tops property?
There is already seawall on top.
Is there?
Yes.
And where's employee parking on the Tops property? Because that's more. concrete.
Originally, we were drawing employee parking on this road at the back of the station.
Okay.
But with this just being a fire station, our count for parking spots will be much less. So it really could be on either side.
So there's a little more concrete than we're showing, but not.
Yes,
Not to
no,
the
I don't,
extent of
I
what
don't
you
have
have
any
on the
parking
side.
lot here.
Okay.
So that would have to be factored in.
What is the front acre of the Tops property zoned
Our property is all commercial
It's
boulevard.
all commercial.
And the two front pieces, so this piece and the small wedge that the town has on the back here is commercial boulevard. This is residential. Across the back.
Any other questions? Any public input on the topic? Seeing none.
I do have one other comment. If it's
Yes, sir.
okay,
Go
John.
ahead.
There was discussion, I thought, but maybe to speak a little to Commissioner Lezak's concerns. I think there was initially a lot of discussion that the town might build its town hall there on the Tops property and adjacent to. And subsequently to that, I've been reading material that indicates that's not likely to be the case. They might put a baseball field there or a swimming pool there, a more of a recreational action on that piece there as opposed to their actual town hall. I guess personally, I was more okay with them, maybe us making a swap that may or may not be 110% in our best interest, but it was going to help the community overall, putting their town hall in that area. But
Isn't that because of budgetary issues or because of?
well, I was a lot less enamored with the concept of putting a baseball field or a swimming pool there. So I guess I don't see the town's need for the Tops property as great as it possibly was originally considered on their part. In fact, in one article I read, they don't even have a clue what they're going to do with that property yet. It could be anything. So I'm like, gee whiz, we're going to give up that property. And I think it presents a very simplified approach to the public safety aspect that we're trying to accomplish.
Sure.
And it may end up being a little cheaper approach because of that. So I guess I just looking at it, I can clearly see, I clearly prefer the Tops property option that I'm seeing here presented over that for all those reasons, really.
It's a good point. Can we get clarity from town council? I know we have a council member in the audience
We
here,
have a
but
council
I don't
member,
think you can speak
and I
to it
don't know
on
if
your
they-
own, so,
They know
yeah,
yet.
he can't. So can we get clarity about what their thoughts are for future plans?
So
Because it could be a field for now
continuous.
until they, until we get through this time period,
Right.
with finances and reimbursement and FEMA and all that stuff. I mean,
Right. I mean, I've continuously been talking with town manager and the mayor and others working on this and, hey, what are your plans for town hall? And the last I was told is the original building that was drawn for the community center on Bay Oaks
Mhm.
is being reworked to have extra floors as one of the concepts, but
that's just a
as
concept.
late
it's
as
not,
first week of October, we had a meeting. Jennifer, do you know what date that meeting was for the development? We went to, I think it was like October 6th.
For this development right here?
Yes. October 4th, October 6th, something
Yeah,
like that.
it was the beginning of the first week of
Yeah,
October.
so it was a week or two ago, and those conversations at that time were, maybe parking, overflow parking, or a pool or pickleball courts or
Yeah.
something.
Something.
So, and again, I fully intend to leave that same access that the town enjoyed historically along the back of the property. And it won't be fenced or,
Would that be an agreement that's done, I don't know if that's appropriate for interlocals so that it would
the town can
protect the
always,
town's rights?
the
to-
town can
utilize
always, through zoning and development, when we submit they can always put demands on us. So,
My only other last thought, and clearly it just looks much clearer to use our own property for this type of station. I mean, the drawing makes, a picture's worth 1,000 words. But is there an opportunity to joint share that and have town hall in front of this fire station or in combination on that lot and do something separate? I'm just throwing it out there and thinking outside the box.
sure. I don't know what their space requirements will be. I don't know what the square footage requirements are going to be. So like us, you remember that when we were doing the public space and how many parking spots that adds. I mean, there's always that opportunity. And if it's, if it's up for sale, then there'll be an opportunity to acquire it as well. So.
Okay, just thinking out of the box there.
The other thing we have to keep in mind is that our district encompasses more than just Estero Island. We also have folks on San Carlos side.
Yeah.
So we need to be respectful of their investment in the district and to try to maximize every dollar we can in their interest. I think a lot of times those folks, at least in comments to me, they kind of feel like the stepchild. We're labeled Fort Myers Beach Fire District. We have a bigger presence currently on the island than we've ever had off the island. But those folks are still our responsibility as customers and as bosses and as recipients of our services. So, just looking at it in that light, I think we have to go with our existing property and move forward is my view.
I have one final comment, Chief. I believe Mayor Allers is in Tallahassee. I would suggest that you reach out and try to set up a meeting between you and and perhaps John and whoever else you would want to invite.
Right.
And try to get that this week so we can get some answers. Because as we know, we're working with FEMA. We're pretty much ready to go. Yes. We really can't wait on that.
Yes.
I agree with Commissioner Fleming. I'd like to have one more round of conversations with the town to make sure that this is exactly the way that we want to go. I think I'll feel a little more comfortable after one more set of conversations.
Okay.
And a report back.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Chief, I know you're with the town meeting this week. Did they address this issue with any definitive answer on what their desires were?
So yes, so Mayor Allers brought it up. I was trying to reach out to the mayor over the weekend. I got a hold of him on Monday morning. So he was, hit with the decision pretty quick before his meeting. For that, I apologize to him, but they talked about it at the end of the meeting, and Mayor Allers conveyed that both parties mutually agreed that we would draw from, considering continuing on with the swap.
So they've already made that decision.
They did.
Yes.
I feel like they'd be willing to have one more conversation. That's my understanding.
You can conversation something to death. I don't think it changes the facts and the needs.
That's fine.
Are you asking for a motion at this time from us?
You authorized me to work with the town on the potential for a swap. I don't know that it actually needs a motion, but if you want to definitively give me direction, just do that.
Any further question, discussion?
No, I'd just like it known that I'd like one more conversation for a final before we do a vote, but that's my opinion.
When's our next meeting?
I don't think we need any more conversation. Frankly, I've already sort of made up my mind on that subject.
Would anybody like to make the motion?
I make a motion that we would authorize the chief to proceed in the direction of building a firehouse on our existing property, which we own.
So the motion would be to withdraw the offer to trade lands with the town and go ahead moving forward with the design on our existing property as we originally planned.
Yes.
Second.
Discussion.
I think politically it would behoove us to have one more conversation based on my understanding. I appreciate all of the opinions here. I actually do like the Tops property layout better. So this to me is kind of a courtesy rather than a requirement. But that's kind of where I'm standing right now.
Public input?
Wait,
Sorry.
someone's got something.
I'm disappointed that it looks like this isn't going to work for the community. But as I said, I do think that one more conversation would be worthwhile, but it has to be soon. And then we have to figure it out. Do we do a special meeting?
Or do we have to give direction? We've already authorized him to make the decision.
Well, there's so many moving parts on moving forward with site planning and architecturals. And again, we're on a fairly tight timeline to get these works in motion.
If I can add under your comment, I did get a phone call from FEMA this morning asking, which parcel you know, hey, you know which parcel? And I said, I'll call you after the meeting. Okay. So,
Say that one more time about the town council decided yesterday.
yeah, so at the end of the meeting, Mayor Allers, on Monday, Mayor Allers explained to the rest of the council, you know, the events of Monday morning and where we're at. And, you know, graciously said that, you know, the parties are mutually agreeing to withdraw the swap and move forward with our own parcels, our own pieces.
And we are open to working with them in the future for any uses they may have on our property in jointly for access, egress, potential building, or other thoughts like that.
We're going to work with them through the development phase. I mean, it's going to go through zoning, and it's going to be considered and ultimately approved by the town. Access between the properties, across the back, as I showed on the next piece. All right, so it's not one to work. The road that's currently there, I intended to keep so that they did have that access.
Would improvement be required on that road to make that more usable for the town
It'll all get stripped out and replaced.
and replaced?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll go down to dirt on that parcel.
Would that be part of our
Yes.
building process?
Yes,
So
it'll
we
be
would work with them to ensure that whatever we're putting back in there is going to work for them in terms of their movement back and forth, or equipment that needs to move back and forth, per se, if they were to put their town hall back on their existing property.
That's correct.
They have that option as well, to rebuild town hall where they are,
Mhm.
and then have
Yeah.
connection to their other property behind the fire station.
That's correct, yes. So, and what I would say on the frontage is that when we put that up on the open market, I don't know if there is a method for the town to buy it at market value versus what a sealed bid would bring. So, you know, so public benefit versus, you know, the taxpayers' dollars, those factors would have to be weighed. The one thing I would caution is I believe that frontage land will be an integral part of being able to do the other half of our projects, which is the admin and training center.
I agree with Ron. You know, it's disappointing that we're not able to do this for the community, because as residents, I see the value of having our town hall right next to Bay Oaks. And it's the challenge that we all have of wearing multiple hats in our community, right? There's not a lot of us, and many of us do multiple things. So as a resident, it's disappointing, but as the commissioner looking at the design layout, clearly one is much preferable than the other.
Everything I've heard so far in those conversations are that the town hall will be in Bay Oaks amongst all the other uses in that area.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Right. So it'll be even closer than if it's at on the Tops property. It's going to be in Bay Oaks. And I thought they were already redesigning the plans that they had done for the community center, modifying it for the new floodplains and everything, and adding floors.
I'm sure, like us, things are fluid because things change
Yes.
and have changed and continue to change.
And the mayor did say that on the meeting. He said, we really don't know what we're going to do. We don't have a designated use. There's no projects submitted with FEMA that they're working on that are on that property. There's nothing drawn, nothing in the works for the Tops property or the town hall, from what I understand.
But the town does seem to have made a decision that they want to put their town hall facility back in what is now currently the Bay Oaks area by rebuilding this.
That's correct. The community center that they had drawn is already sited in Bay Oaks.
Okay.
So it's already positioned in
So they've
Bay
already made a
Oaks.
decision that town hall is going to be back there, it sounds like.
I
We
think
don't know
that's
that
the
for
plan
sure,
they're
I don't
currently,
think.
yeah, I don't know that. I can't speak for the town. I can
That's
just,
true.
I can just convey what they've told me, that they're modifying that current plan that they had done already.
I think they're trying to figure it out just like we're trying to figure it
Yes,
out.
I think so.
Unfortunately, it's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
That's my understanding anyway, so limited.
It doesn't appear as though we're taking an option away from them. The town still has the option of building on their current property or Bay Oaks, or, you know, using that property for other purposes. It's just, you know, when you look at the drawing or the schematic there, it's pretty obvious which one.
best suited for the
Best
district.
suited for the
To
district.
the district, and
And
that's who we represent.
Exactly.
All right, I'll open it up to public comment if anybody would like to comment on this topic. Anybody? Mr. King.
Good morning. John R. King, council member, Town of Fort Myers Beach. Interesting conversation. Thank you. There is no definitive answer yet. We are looking at every option. So I believe to what the chief said, we are exploring looking at Bay Oaks. That's been on the discussion since the beginning also of the possible swap. So we're under consideration for everything, but nothing concrete yet.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions, discussion? We've got a motion and a second. I'll put it to the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Saying none, carries. Thank you. Good conversation, folks. I appreciate it. New business. The 800-pound gorilla has arrived. Imposed merger of the fire districts. Chief.
Yes, good morning. So as you know, a couple weeks ago, we got notified by Representative Botana that he was going to submit legislation to involuntarily merge Bonita Springs and Fort Myers Beach fire districts. There's been two versions of the bill. The second bill actually ended up being the final bill that was submitted for the local delegation to consider. If I can, I will read a letter that I received 9:25 this morning from the chair of the local delegation, Jenna Persons-Mullica. Good morning, Chief. Please feel free to share the following at your meeting today. Representative Botana's proposed local bill for an involuntary merger of the Fort Myers Beach Fire and Bonita Springs Fire Districts will not be placed on the October 30th delegation agenda for consideration and a vote of the members. However, this proposal will be placed on the agenda for discussion purposes only. Again, a vote will not be taken on this matter at this time. For the proposed local bill to proceed, it would still first require a vote of the delegation, but that vote will not occur at the meeting on the 30th. In the coming days, we will compile all information and public comment regarding this matter that I have received as chair of the delegation and distribute it to each of the delegation members. I'm grateful to each person who took the time to reach out to our office on this important community matter. Their voices were heard. In addition, I would like to invite a representative of the Fort Myers Beach Fire District to present comments on this item at the delegation meeting. I will follow up with you regarding the details, and an agenda should be forthcoming by the end of the week. I will also be sending this information and extending the invite to speak to Chief DeWitt and the Bonita Springs Fire District. So we received that this morning.
I have a question.
Good news.
concerning that. So
Yes.
Does that mean on the 30th, the public has an opportunity to speak or not?
If you submitted a request and you were approved, you should still be on the agenda. I'm not sure if they will reach out with this change and see who wants to remain on the agenda. That's what I got from the part where she said she'd be reaching out to everybody who asked to speak. So that's all I know.
Well, I signed up to speak and I did get verification. Unless I'm missing something, I'm going to go
Okay.
and speak. And with all the representatives that I met in the Senate Mark. Yeah. And just like our building, time's of the essence.
Yes.
He dropped this Pearl Harbor type event on us. And I'm not sure what his thought, Mr. Lieutenant's thought process is. I mean, I just read a bill that he submitted that it says, I'm sure that nobody proofread it. It's a bill to combine the Fort Myers Beach Mosquito Control District with Bonita Springs Fire Control District. So, I mean, did he just cut and paste? Is he incompetent? I don't know. It's just, it makes no sense. Well, he said all assets of the mosquito board go to Bonita Springs. They come spray like, right?
They could be sprayed,
Oops.
bug spray.
All right, I think we all know about this motion that came abruptly. Chief notified me right after he received the phone call from Mr. Montana. I think it took us all off guard. It's something that requires much more than just, hey, let's do it. This is not two districts eloping and running off into the sunset happily ever after. It's a lot of moving parts, a lot of assets, a lot of employees with retirement plans that are all affected. And the folks who keep us doing what we're doing, all of our constituents, should have the final say and not a body that just decides that we're going to eliminate 2 special districts. We were created for a special purpose. I feel we do that very well. We're fiscally responsible. We've obviously made great land purchases because our values increased in such a short time. But the things that we're responsible for, we take seriously. And if there is ever an idea for a merger, then it should be taken seriously as well. Researched, planned for, have a concrete number that we can provide the voters to say, look, here's your potential savings and or liabilities. And I think one side would win more than the other with the proposed swap. I'm glad to hear that it is not a voted on bill for the local legislation coming on the 30th. But I still feel as a board, we need to take a position on how we feel about the idea of this topic.
Great.
Yeah, if I can add to that, the other thing to keep in mind is that the decision to move this forward resides with the chair. On the 30th, that chair position changes. So this could come back up before they start in January. But at this point, what we know is there won't be a vote on the 30th. So I agree with you that a position is necessary, and have reached out to Benita and asking them to, make sure we're both taking a position. I'm not going to say what their position would be, but
Right.
take a position on this so that that carries to the meeting on the 30th, no matter a vote or not.
I also reached out to the chair of the biggest Springs Fire District, asked him if they would have an official position.
Okay.
Told them we were going to do one today. I would appreciate knowing theirs. I have not heard back in any shape, phone call or email. But I know they're busy folks, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Are we able to make a statement as well? Do we know who the next chair is of our legislation, our delegate?
I believe it's Representative Esposito.
Okay, from Bonita Springs.
Bonita Springs,
Yes.
yeah, covers East Lee County. Yes.
And then my second, I just wanted to state publicly that I was incredibly disappointed with the manner in which this was brought forward to both departments, who should have, the chiefs of those departments should have been alerted first, along with commissioners, along with legislative delegation entirety, along with local legislative bodies, including the city and the county and the state and the federal. My understanding is almost none of them knew anything about it. I'm incredibly disappointed. I don't think that's the way that business should be operated. I don't think that's the way our constituents want our departments run. And I just publicly on the record want to state that that's incredibly frustrating. And I'm very proud of our department and the Benita department and all those involved and how they've handled this professionally. And want to see if this is the will of our voters and our constituents, then it needs to be properly brought forward in a referendum and looked at completely instead of just piecemeal. That's my statement.
Other statements, comments?
Yes, I agree with Commissioner Lezak. I was extremely disappointed in the manner in which this entire process was approached. It feels like, to me, it was not a needs-based action on the part of our representative, but more of a political in nature, which I don't fully understand. In my lifetime, I've been in public service and public safety virtually all my life, and one of my North Stars is politics should not be involved in public safety. Public safety is public safety, and I just felt this was not this was not handled in an appropriate way. My experience here at FMB, FD is this is one of the most well-managed professional organizations I have ever had the opportunity to work around. They are staffed with some dedicated, talented professionals. And the assertions of a possible cost savings that were put out by our representative are suspect at best, and I think if not just a red herring to try to get people's attention and or support without any evidence whatsoever to back that up. And in my experience and what I know about how our organization operates, the cost savings, we already take every option available to us to save costs in our purchasing and in our management. The commission, I think, has been very flexible as we've been responding to the impact of Hurricane Ian. We've reduced our budget. We've reduced our that we're faced with on the ground, and we are already actively planning and preparing to expand our service. As we know, this island is going to come back, and this area is going to come back. It's not just going to come back, it's going to come roaring back over the next couple of years. This is a very resilient area. It's part of a major metropolitan area. It's not going to just linger. And so if we don't plan and prepare for the future, we're not doing our due diligence. And I think this commission has already embraced that and accepts and understands that, and it's already been taking actions such as the fire station that we talked about today, the headquarters training facility that would be located geographically in our area. I think these are actions that speak well to us being a responsible professional organization. And I know that you always look for cost savings where there can be redundancy and there's training facilities and whatnot, but you have to understand Fort Myers Beach area is sort of geographically isolated. And so if you have a training center that's 20 miles away, it takes your people way far out of the district in order to do that training, and they are not available to respond, where if you had a training center that was geographically close, they literally could break off training and be at a high-rise fire as quickly as if they were practically coming out of the station house. So there are advantages, even though there may be some expense associated with it, there are advantages of maintaining our things geographically close to the island. And last but not least, and probably the most important really, is local control and local input, I think is critical. Local government is supposed to be local. It's supposed to be close to the people so that they can have input on how things are being operated in their community. And I think we are very transparent to our community, and we have our meetings and they're close at hand. People can attend them. And I think things would change dramatically if this kind of a merger were to occur, and it would not be to the best interest of the people of Fort Myers Beach and the Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District. So for all those reasons, I'm vehemently opposed to moving forward in this direction, and I'm very pleased to hear that they've taken it off the agenda for being voted on October 30th. Yes, thank you.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner White?
I agree with everything that's been said so far, so I won't reiterate that again, but I look at the human side of this whole thing. And I think of our firefighters and our staff. And let's say this merge, but it's not a merge, it's a takeover. There's no doubt about it. Bonita is so much larger than we are. And just thinking about, we're going to take the firefighters that have been loyal to us. They've been here on the island serving us. They're here on the island doing their jobs every day. People that would be merged or coming from Bonita may or may not be here. They might be here for a while and then going somewhere else in Bonita, which is a large property. And I think when that merge occurs, the people that are here are always going to be looked at as, oh, you're one of those. You're one of those people that used to be here on Fort Myers Beach. They will never be seen as part of the Bonita family, so to speak. We'll always be the outsiders. And I think I've been through a merger before, and not with this entity. But that is not healthy, and it's the chances for promotion for our firefighters lessen dramatically when they are, oh, you're coming from them. And I think that's not fair to them and not fair to us. I also think I'm kind of a demographic of a lot of the people on the island. I'm a senior citizen and with health issues. And I think I want the people that are going to come out and help me when it's really necessary, I want them to have some affinity for the people that live here, not coming, oh, well, this week they're coming from Lee County or somewhere, or Bonita Springs. I want them to be Fort Myers Beach people and care about the Fort Myers Beach people. And so I think this is wrong in so many instances. And, I can go on and on and on, and I won't, because we've already shared a lot of our concerns about everything. But I'm just worried about the people. And just another thing, we would be at some point within the first year, we would be down to one commissioner. Now, let's say John is going to run for that one position that they're going to throw us a bone. They're going to give us one commissioner from Fort Myers Beach. The other 4 would be from Bonita. Okay. Every vote conceivably could be 4-1 against anything that we decide is good for Fort Myers Beach. I think there's no way to make it even, of course. I understand representative government, but I would not walk easily into that kind of situation. And besides, there's no guarantee that everybody would be voting for that, as far as I understand. All the Bonita residents would be voting for our one person. So the odds of it being any of one of the 5 of us is lessened dramatically, because the people from Bonita could hire or could elect whomever they want. So I think it's for those reasons and the others that have been mentioned, this is a really tough situation for us all.
Ron?
I totally agree with everything you've been said so far. This is a bill that was put forward with 0 thought. No rational thought. Like Larry or Commissioner Wood, I'm old, but the district's older than me. And they've been doing a good job for 74 or 5 years. I see no reason to break this up. I believe it's a money grab. I don't know who's behind it. We have the grant, we have TOPS. We're in good shape. I have 40 years as a firefighter in public service. I served all ranks, fire departments or districts. I didn't even know what a district was. Fire departments, they plan until you want to just give up. I mean, they plan and research and talk about it, look at all the scenarios that could happen. Mr. Battana has done nothing. I mean, he wants to merge a mosquito district with a fire. That right there is reason enough to vote no. Now, one thing, because it seems like we're going to get a little time extension for when this will eventually be voted on. I believe we should continue to encourage the public to contact all of the players, to voice their concerns. I'd like to have a discussion on what we can do moving forward. It's an appropriate use of district funds to let all our constituents know of anything that may impact them. So I would like to do a mailer. I don't know what they cost. Yeah, but just because it's being delayed doesn't mean they're not going to put together some sham survey that they shop with from somebody else and with 0 thought and just to keep hammering. I have called Mr. Battana at least 10 times. He said, any of my constituents that have a question, call. And he put his phone number. So I called. didn't answer, so I'm texting. I'm asking him all these questions. To this date, he does not respond because he has no answers. I know what I speak concerning fire. Maybe he knows why he speaks up to being a politician. Well, I see, I voted for the man twice. But I didn't know what I was voting for, just like he doesn't know what he's trying to do to us. I'd like to tell you what I really.
So I get the general feeling you're against this proposal, sir? Okay, we'll leave it at that. Commissioner Lezak, anything further?
Oh, goodness, no. You don't want my thoughts for sure at this point. I'll stand with what I said. I'm extremely disappointed, and I'm very appreciative of it not being heard on the 30th, and I appreciate the other legislators listening to the concerns of the community, and clearly that's what made the difference. So I encourage you to continue to reach out to them and share your concerns, because I don't think this is gone yet.
I have one more thing. Some of the residents and my friends and neighbors, they're talking about getting a caravan and to show up on October 30th and whatever in support of us. Is that still necessary, or should I suggest to them that let's?
All we know at this point is there won't be a vote on the 30th. It could be picked up and carried by the next chair on a very quick fashion. So I think, I think showing up on the 30th does no harm. I think them seeing the public there and seeing the folks who have an interest in this and have a position on it, if there's a thought that this is good to carry forward as written, maybe that will help them think twice. So I think the board taking a position. I want to say I thank the town for weighing in on this and taking a position in support of keeping the local option for the folks of the community and for the community who's stepped up and come out and shared their stories. Our folks are embedded in the community. They volunteer with the different organizations. It's not just running to people's emergencies. So to answer your question, yes, I think people showing up on the 30th, even though this won't be voted on at that time, is definitely healthy. And, I think the community continuing to reach out to the new chair and making sure that person is aware of their thoughts and their position will be beneficial as well.
Thank you.
I have one further thought. I thought it was in extreme poor taste to bring this up at this point in this community's recovery process. It's only a year since we got completely devastated by this storm. And the fact that this is even being brought forward at this point in the manner it was is just so egregious, I can't even begin to address it properly. And it just goes to show how out of touch this particular individual is with our community that he purports to serve. And that's all I got to say about that.
That brings up an additional point.
Yes.
The remembrance ceremony. I mean, the town was on the stage with Chief Wood, and he didn't bother. What I'm most disappointed of, that ceremony got hijacked and it turned into a political pep rally. The thoughts of the victims and the survivors was glossed over. Mitch Pataya, who I imagine most of us know well, he died in that storm. His wife, Mary, hung onto a tree. She survived. I don't know how, but she did. She was at that ceremony. Halfway through, she was seated in front of me. She got up and left. I followed her out. She said, Mary, what's going on? She said, I am so upset. This is disgusting. And then she said, she said, will you take me to where my house used to be? Because they have a little memorial for me. So I did. And, it was sad. It was moving. And she spoke with a neighbor across the street. She was there maybe a half hour. Just the lack of empathy and humanness. It's pouring salt into our wounds. It was was like the one we were notified that we got the big grant. It was great. That was on a Friday morning. Friday afternoon, we're going to be perfect. It's just not what, he should be ashamed. But he's not. He's a politician. He's only in for it for himself and his power-hungry greed. Thank you.
It's obvious, I think, that the board is unanimous in how we feel. We're all opposed to this. There's so many reasons. In a nutshell, the lack of data, lack of planning, the lack of a plan once the two groups are merged. I was disturbed to see a number that came from the Medina side in the proposed, and it was in opposition of the merger, but if it were to happen, they were proposing a new millage cap to go to 3.75. And currently we're at 3. So it makes me suspicious as to what the motives are. That, when you look at a community that's, we're still a little bruised from last year, we're not broken. We're going to come back. We're going to be stronger than ever. The chief and I met with labor last week. I think the membership in general was of the same mindset. I don't know if their rep would like to give us their input today. Jen, if you'd like to.
Jennifer Gordon, local 1826, District 3 rep. I represent the members on the floor and our civilian fire inspectors. I heard last night that the merger proposition was not going to end up for debate or voting at the meeting on the 30th. So I'd like to pass out thanks to our local 1826 president who took his own time to drive to Tallahassee to meet with the lawmakers, the Florida Professional Firefighters, the FPF, that were on this from the beginning. Instantly, when I heard of it, these calls went out. The IAFF, the Bonita Springs FD local, their union guys were against this and opposed to this as we were. Of course, the FMB Town Council, who voted yesterday to write a letter in support of not supporting this bill. And all the local and state lawmakers that took time out of their days to listen to our community and our people. And then, of course, last but not least, I really want to thank the residents of the island that spoke out, that called their representatives, put their voice out there, responded to Beach Talk Radio. Thank you, Beach Talk Radio. I almost left you out for getting this information out there. And we love seeing the support from the community as well. We were opposed to this bill from the beginning because how it was proposed, throwing it on a department like this, who's been through so much in the past few years. I mean, the firefighters have been through COVID. We went through Ian, and now, it's like chiefs suddenly leaving. And then every time it seems like we get our feet under the ground, then along comes Batana. We really, really appreciate the outpouring that we've gotten from the community and everybody that has been in opposition of this bill. I want to make it clear that our opinion against this motion that Batana was bringing forward, this bill, was strictly based on the lack of pre-notice and the lack of options for the community to respond to it without any basis in fact. And so that's why we were opposed to it. We want to see our community that we care for and love to be involved in these decisions that will affect their responses on the island and their public safety, existence, our public safety existence on this island and how it is provided to them. So that was our main goal. So I'm glad to see this not getting to the vote like it needs to be. If it pleases the board, I'd like to also make some union comments. Since the issue of the Tops property was brought up, I do want to just express the opinion that we would love to see that station be developed as a community station. We would love to see that station on the front of the property. It's going to be in the heart of the island. It's going to be the community's firehouse. We currently have 2 firehouses that don't have drive-arounds. We manage. We'd love to see the bays open onto the street where people who are walking by are like, This is our community fire station. It may be too late in the process for any of that. I just figured I would get my opinion out there. With the drive around and the sharp turns, I'd like it to be considered the access issues or the track adaptations that had to be made for Station 31. And, you know, I hope those don't come into play with the new station. I know most of the membership is against selling the front or any part of the Tops property that we bought, due to the fact that what would be in front of us? A laundromat, a bar, you know, like what exactly is going to be blocking the view of the public from Estero to their fire station? So that's the opinion of most. And so I also want to, of course, thank the commission here for your support throughout this last challenge that we had, and extend again the invitation to come meet with me and talk with me anytime that you have the opportunity. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other public comment? Mr. Kane?
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, chief. Good morning, staff. I'm John R. King, council member, town of Fort Myers Beach. I apologize if the mayor's not here, as commissioner out of. So I'm here to represent the town and our support for the fire district regarding this proposed forced merger. As you know, on Monday, the council passed a resolution of support to send a letter and a resolution for Mayor Allers to speak at the Lee County delegation legislative meeting on the 30th. Like Chief Worth, we did receive an email, the council did, from the delegation chair. And I just want to stress some healthy skepticism here, or maybe just regular skepticism. It is debate only. So I would still encourage everyone to show up and support the fire district. The skeptic in me says that it can possibly rear its ugly head again. So I think another solid show of force at this meeting would put a thought bubble in their minds about proceeding forward. But again, I'm always skeptical. But we're here to support our residents. Just we share commonality with the residents on this beach, and that we care for and support. And just thank you for all your efforts as well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Chuck Bodenafer, I'm a resident, as I mentioned before, but one of my other hats is I'm on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce in Fort Myers Beach. And we met this morning and discussed this with the executive committee and the board. And we're opposed to any merger discussions. And so we want best for the residents and the constituents here on the beach, and we do not feel that we will be well represented should that merger take place. So having said that, you know, we're opposed to any reorganization or merger as well.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Any other public comment at this time? I think we've said it all. I'd make a motion that the board's official position regarding the merger that Mr. Botana has submitted is in opposition. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we are in opposition. I prepared a letter anticipating that was our response. Each of you can review it. If you could get to me by the end of the day, if you have any objections or changes you'd like to add, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next new business item, board policy.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. For board policy, I attached one of, so annually, you guys are supposed to take a look at your policies, your handbook, make any changes that you'd like to make to facilitate that. I did not include your handbook, but it's available through your SharePoint drive. Actually, I'll have Christina after the meeting make sure it's dropped in the BOFC folder. Okay, and then staff went through the other policies. You have 4 other policies in addition to your handbook. Only one had a recommended change, so that is attached to your packet for your review. It was a single change. So if you can, between now and the next meeting, take a look, bring forward any changes that you'd like. You can forward them to myself and Christina, and we'll get them all gathered up and collect those changes. Okay.
Questions, anybody?
None.
None? Nope, great, get that done. Moving right along. Fire chief remarks.
Yes, I don't have a whole lot to say other than that's already been said, but I do want to say, sometimes we find ourselves in that odd position of being the ones that have to be responded to and helped. And from the community, Ed and the other media that helped get the word out, everybody that collectively came together to make this position known. It just says something. It's a weird position to be in for people to be responding to our emergency. It's their emergency too, but it just highlights the fact that our agency is their fire department. We're in this with them. We were here a year ago with them together, and I think it's just a sign that when that next thing hits us as a community, that we're all going to be here together. So appreciate everybody's support and everybody who's helped get the word out. So,
Thank you, sir. On to commissioner remarks. Mr. Fleming, we'll start. Or do you want to relax a little bit?
Sorry. I can just read you a text I sent.
That's all right.
Okay.
We'll forget those for a while.
All I want to say is thank you to the staff and the firefighters and the public for helping us. As Chief said, we're not used to being on the receiving end. And just keep up the good work. We have to push forward and make sure this gets through.
Jackie.
I agree with Commissioner Fleming, and thank you to staff and to the firefighters and to the local 1826 for lending a hand to our media, our partners. Clearly, this was a team effort, and if you think you can push Fort Myers Beach around, I think you just learned a lesson. We're pretty tough out here. Category 5 hurricane couldn't take us out. I don't think a little legislation is going to take us out either. So I'm proud to be a part of this department, and thank you for all that you guys do.
I likewise echo, I want to thank the chief, spearheading, keeping us well informed as to exactly what's going on. I really want to thank the firefighters for their incredible work, really. And they've had to endure so much in the last year. This is just one more cloud over their head. It just doesn't need to be there. And it's very frustrating that their careers, their livelihood could be put in jeopardy in a manner like this. I sincerely appreciate their response, however, that they stepped up in their support of the fire district, and we appreciate that very, very much.
Well, as you get to the end here, pretty much all been said, but obviously we do care deeply about our firefighters and appreciate their support and what they're going through. And this is just really unfortunate, but we will overcome this. I want to thank Chief for jumping on this so quickly and leading us through this. He's done a wonderful job. Spent a lot of hours, and appreciate that. John, and I appreciate you too also for helping him craft letters and responses. So thank you. Thanks to the whole board or the commissioners for all the work that you're going to do to make this happen. So I thank you in advance. And I appreciate the local media too for helping us get the message out as clearly as they're doing. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank members of the local media, especially Beach Talker Radio. You guys you're the source now for the last year, and I know a lot of people depend on their news from your outlets, so thank you very much. It's been a busy 11 days with phone calls between the chief and I. And my knee-jerk responses were calmed by him, thankfully. There were some things I would have liked to have said and written that I had second thoughts on after a good conversation. It, like the rest of you stated, it was a complete shock and surprise. The only equivalent I can think of is firing your employee of the year. And it makes no sense. Here's the entity that really had to weather a big brunt over the last year of response and recovery and people looking to somebody to lead and to answer the call when they needed help. And then to have that threatened was just, it was mind blowing to me that it was even a thought, let alone put on paper to take to the legislature and to bypass the voters. I mean, there is a law that addresses this exact thing. It's easy enough to follow. It doesn't seem that complicated. Most of us can understand it by reading the statute. And that is you study it, you plan it, you put it to the voters, and both districts would have to decide if that's something they want, which is the way things should go. We can guess at what motivations or thoughts were on doing this outside of that process, but they'd strictly be guesses. I appreciate the labor group. Like I said, the chief and I had a meeting last week with them in the evening. The folks that weren't there were in by teams on the calls. I think it was a universal feeling of what the heck, and that's putting it nicely. But I appreciated all their input, their candidness, and they thanked the board for our support of them as well. The thing I kind of left them with was, it's our district to be responsible to the taxpayers, but there are people too, along with the chief we hire, he cares for the family of the fire district. And to look at folks whose livelihoods, retirements, promotion opportunities, all those things that are important when you're a working person, we're all in question. And again, after last year of overtime and sleeping in stations and working with rescue folks from across the country, it just amazed me that somebody was trying to do this to us. And we all take it personally. And I thank the staff for all their hard work.